Thank you, Devin. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are checking in with us at NGOCSW New York. I am so happy to see so many familiar faces and names. And I also love that some people are using our background, the NGOCSW 67. We will share that link with you all if you want to use it. We are one big happy family. We all share the logos that we create because the more voices we have, the more impact we make. So let's show the world NGOCSW is here, growing and making a difference in this world. Hi, Winifred. Okay. Hi, Pam. All right. Thank you all for being here. I'm not going to take too much time, but I do have some really important announcements to make. My name is Huri Gedelekian. For all of you who are new, I am the chair of NGOCSW New York for a few more months. My term ends in June, and I've been so lucky and proud to represent you all with my amazing team for the last 4 years. This is our last meeting of 2022, and we are so excited with the preparations for our forum. As you know, since I became chair, things really changed a lot in this world. Oh, wow, people are still coming in there, Susan. Okay. We went from in-person forums to 100% virtual forums. And then this year, for the first time ever, we are creating a blueprint for what it's like going forward to do a hybrid forum. We realized how important it is that we need to include our global sisters and activists and advocates and brothers who stand up for gender rights, right? And we want to make sure that we create a space where we can meet in person, because we know there's a big difference when you are meeting in person, but we also know the advantages that we created by doing this virtual forum. And the first thing I want to announce, because I've been playing on our platform all day yesterday in between meetings, our platform has launched. And big applause to Devin and everybody in the office who created an amazing platform. I want to thank again Pamela Morgan, one of our co-chairs, who recommended this new platform called HOVA. As you know, the first year we were very happy with Pathable. It was wonderful. We loved it. We still like it. I still recommend it. But last year we were not too happy with how people were signing on and the difficulties they were having. It was a glitch on their part, but we still had an amazing forum, but we decided to try something new. And I'm going to tell you, from someone who's not a tech person, I love this new platform. It is so easy to run around and see people. Please, if you have not signed up, there it is. The link is there. Please sign up and let's say hi on the platform. We will populate it pretty soon with more information, but we do that slowly on purpose because we want you to go around and see how the platform feels. Please pay attention to all the emails that we are sending out. We are actually today, after the rest of my day, we'll be scheduling more in-person parallel events. I'm so excited. Thank you all who applied. Again, every year we say the same thing. We're like blown away with the amount of work that's being done around the world. We love the applications that we read it, with such big hearts, because it's inspiring to see all the work that you're all doing and you want to present in our forum. I can say that 99.9% almost are really good applications that we want to accept. The issue we have is that we don't have a lot of in-person space. We're not doing 4 different buildings anymore. We're only going to be in the Church Center and the Salvation Army, which are the closest to the UN. And I want to thank my sister Victoria Edmonds for inviting us back into the Salvation Army. It's an incredible space to have parallel events. So we're going to schedule those 2 spaces. And then if there's no more space left, we're going to ask some people in the first week if they want the second week, because we always have more room in the second week, as you know. well, you'll hear from us. So if you are here with your anxiety over parallel events, I assure you, it is as important to me for you to have a parallel event as it is for you. My team knows that. I fight for these parallel events like tooth and nail. Anyway, and then of course, everybody can be on the virtual platform. So hopefully if we can't fit you in anywhere, you will still have your parallel event. We are hoping that this pandemic will stay at bay and we will be able to meet in person, because you know that is a possibility. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, as I said, this will be my final year as chair. And apparently in the bylaws, there are rules that we have to check the bylaws every couple of years. And there was a committee, Susan O'Malley, who's our past chair, and I believe she's here, and Margarita and a few others were on a bylaw committee that checked our bylaws, and we will send them out. Now, I want our global members to know that NGO CSW New York is a New York-based organization. So a lot of these, you know, for example, the bylaws and elections and executive committee members must stay in New York area. So sometimes I'm going to make these announcements for our friends and members who are in the New York area, and our global sisters will just have to learn about it. There's not much for you to be involved in that one. So for those of you in the New York area, you will be getting an email about the bylaws. And then of course, we will have a nominating committee by February, and then we'll present the slate for the next 4 years sometime, I think after CSW. I'm sorry, I really don't spend too much time on these things because I'm so focused on the forum, and that's my job, and I want to do that. Now, I think that's all. I will be around for the rest of this meeting, answering questions in the chat, getting to know you if I haven't met you, connecting with old friends. I think I'm going to hand the mic over to, is it the, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Is it Rosa and Pamela next or advocacy next?
I think advocacy.
Advocacy.
I'm sorry. Okay. I was so excited to have this conversation. Of course, it's our amazing advocacy team. I can't wait for you to hear from them what it is that we're doing. They've been amazing this year. So thank you all and see you later. Ivy and Ani, floor is yours.
Thank you, Hootie. Yes, June's going to be a big transition year for us without you. And I would like to invite Ani as well as who is my co-chair for the advocacy research group. I think probably you'll see both of us on the screen.
Thank you, Ivy.
So
you want me to jump in, or you want to?
Yeah, please go.
Oh no, for sure. And hi everyone. It's great to be here with my co-chair Ivy Koch. We just wanted to share as a quick couple of exciting news first, and I hope Devon can send that link in the chat as well. But wanted to update everyone, if you haven't heard yet, our recommendations have been shared. We finalized our research and our recommendations and shared with the UN members to consider for the CSW to include in their outcomes. So very excited about that. And I think now the most important part starts because we then need to use those recommendations to advocate at the UN. And I'm not sure, Ivy, is Jillian on the call to give us some exciting news on our plans for how we're going to use those recommendations?
Yes, and I'd also like to acknowledge the members of our advocacy research group who together helped compile those 5 key recommendations for the Zero draft. We've started having some member state visits, And they highly appreciate us putting those together as countries are currently putting together their positions to submit into the zero draft. So the timing was just right. So I believe that this has been already from our predecessors. Susan and Erica have started this good momentum where in the summer we do the research and then we get it all out before December so that it's in time for the SG's report as well. And so yes, I think, I'm not sure if it's in the link now, the link is in the chat or not, or maybe that, but that is, yes, here it is. Around this and how you can get involved.
Jillian, if you're on the call, we're passing it on to you.
I absolutely am, and welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Ivy and Ani leave big shoes and high heels to follow, but I think what they're picking up from what they and the ARG group have done over the summer, the hard work that they've done, the recommendations that they've put together. There are a couple of aspects to it, and we wanted to make sure that everyone has access to this. What do we mean when we say recommendations, right? It is over the summer, they have convened, figured out with inputs from over 700 individuals, what it is that is a priority for each and every one of you on this call and more. They have put together a super easy, what you can see in the chat box, single one pager, which has 5 recommendations. Now, these recommendations largely encompass policy, privacy, infrastructure, the cost of technology, and lifelong digital learning. These are all aspects that impact every single one of us at some point or the other. Ivy alluded to the fact that member state visits have already begun. We have shared these details with every member state following the commission, but there's one integral part that has not yet been done, and that is you. Your voice matters. You need to be heard. You need to know this. What happens with and so therefore today we are launching what is our sign-on petition in support of our recommendations, because we would like all member states to know that you as an individual or an organization, part of an academic institution, also supports what we're asking for. How does this matter? This matters because the more our voices are heard, the more member states realize that these are 5 important things for us, the better our chances for advocacy and to ensure that this is included in the outcome document. And we've got time. We're starting our online petition today. Devin will share a short video that after this call will be loaded across our social media channels. I invite every single one of you to take the time to read the one-pager, watch the video, and if you so inclined, please support the petition. What happens with this, with your sign-on or with your name that you add? At the start of CSW, when we formally share these recommendations with the Bureau and the UN, we will also share this number and the people who are in support of this recommendation. And so you have an opportunity to add your voice. With that, and enough of my voice, I'm going to ask Devin to share the video, which will go public a little later today after the call. But please take a moment to look at the sign-on petition and take the time to sign it. Please share it with far and wide. It's open to everyone. You don't have to be ECOSOC accredited. You don't have to be an NGO. You could be a student. If these recommendations resonate with you, please add your name, add your voice. Devin, the video. Thank you.
The 67th session of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women centers around the achievement of gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls in the context of innovation, technological change, and education in the digital age. We at NGO CSWNY recommend the achievement of this critical agenda by empowering women and girls in all our diversity through our 5 recommendations, which are: invest in and strengthen gender-responsive policies, set international standards to address the risks to digital privacy, universal access to gender-inclusive digital infrastructure, improve public and private finance in digital technologies, prioritize digital literacy. As we take this message to the member states of the United Nations, I invite you to add your voice in support by signing the petition in the link attached to this video. Your voice matters.
So I have to say, this fantastic video has been done by our very own intern, Michaela, and has been edited and done by our very own Carla, sitting in the office and running the call today. The video will run in English, in Spanish, in French. And the reason for these languages, just to be completely clear, are volunteers who have volunteered their time and talents to make this for us. So if you would like to join in a language that is convenient for you, please reach out to myself or to Huri, Ivy, Ani, and we'll try and accommodate as much as possible. And with that, I'm gonna hand to Rosa. I think you're up next.
Hi, Jillian. No, I think we're handing this over to Terry for the monthly meeting.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Terry.
But it's great to say hello to everyone. Hello.
Sorry,
Good.
Terry.
No worries at all. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Rosa. Thank you, Jillian. Thank you all. And welcome. My name is Terry Ince. I am very, very, very pleased to be hosting this segment of our final monthly meetings for 2022. Hopefully we go out with a great bang. It's a pleasure to be here. So welcome again to everyone. I'm going to stay off camera because my camera doesn't work. As you can see, I just tried again. It doesn't work. So I'm going to be staying off camera, but I think you can see my photo there. So let's get started with this exciting topic. We have some very great guests this morning. Again, I want to share that as well. So let me give you a little background about our discussion today. As we know, technology and innovation is an integral part of our lives, which include emerging from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're still going through the pandemic, I know, but we are emerging from it, hopefully. And innovation for achieving gender equality and allowing for the empowerment of women must be an integral part of whatever we do as we explore approaches for the future. Care and the ways in which society views and engage with care people, systems, processes were highlighted through the realities of the inequalities of the systems of caregiving and increased violence against women and girls. Formal and informal care systems and services and the need for structure and processes were evidenced in the ways in which care in all of its dimensions should be explored as a means for sustainable recovery with gender equality. So today's discussion, as we wind down 2022, we will identify the linkages of care and the primary theme of innovation at the 67th session of the Commission of the Status of Women. We have a diverse panel of experts to participate in our discussion today. So let me give you a little bit of the program structure. The program will have an intervention by each panelist, followed up to 20 minutes, followed by engagement with the listening audience. And I encourage you to put your questions in the chat or raise your hands if you want to engage or ask a question in person. Just raise your hand or turn on your camera at that time and engage. So who are our panelists today? Our first panelist is Patricia Cortez. Patricia is currently a UN Women's Coordinator for the Global Alliance for Care, and she's the second Vice Chair of the Staff Council for UNDP, UNFPA, UNOPS, and UN Women. She has worked at UN Women headquarters since 2011 in the Civil Society Division and the UN System Coordination Division, and as a special assistant to the former Deputy Executive Director. Prior to joining UN Women, Patricia worked with the Office of the Special Advisor on Gender Issues, the former division for the advancement of women, INDESA, ECLAC, the governments of Colombia and Chile, civil society, and various UN agencies. And so as you can see, Patricia is well-rounded and well-appointed to engage in this discussion with us. Our second panelist is Sandra. Sandra Messiah is the Sub-Regional Secretary and is Public Services International's representative for the Caribbean. And she works directly with PSI's 22 affiliates in 20 countries and territories in the English, French, and Dutch-speaking Caribbean. Public Services International, or PSI, is a global union federation representing 30 million public workers, bringing their voices to the UN, the ILO, the WHO, or World Health Organization, and other regional and global organizations. PSI defends trade union and workers' rights and fights for universal access to quality public services. PSI works on critical issues such as the climate crisis, promoting public and gender responsive models of care, public financing for development, more progressive corporate tax rules, universal social protection systems, universal public health services, digitalization, and the future of public services. Sandra is an economist and continues to use that training as well as training and skills in journalism, information and communications technology, and education and training methods with trade unionists, members of civil society, as well as with multilateral agencies throughout the world. And our third guest speaker, you may already know her, may be familiar with her, it's Dr. Padmini or Minnie Murthy. She's a globally recognized health professional educator in her roles as a physician and public health expert. She is professor and global health director at New York Medical College School of Health Sciences and Practice, USA, and immediate past chair of the International Health Section of American Public Health Association and global health lead for the American Medical Women's Association and the NGO rep to the UN, and is a well-respected NGO leader. Dr. Murthy has been working with the UN ambassadors and missions to promote women's health in the last 20 years on various projects with local efforts in Malawi, India, Suriname, Grenada, Liberia, and Nepal. And during the COVID crisis in 2020-21, Minnie spearheaded efforts working with other NGOs to provide relief to India, Italy, and the Navajo Nation. She's also well published nationally and internationally. So I ask you all to provide a great warm welcome to our three panelists. Welcome, panelists. Are you all hearing me okay?
Yes, Terry, that was a great introduction, and I'm hoping that Patricia will make it to her computer on time. She does want to speak first, but if she's not here yet, perhaps we can ask the second speaker.
Sure. So let me just ask if Patricia, are you on yet? No, I'm not seeing Patricia. Okay, so let me ask Sandra if Sandra is on, if you can come on camera.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening for those in other parts of the world. Yes, I'm able to start if that's needed.
Thank you, Sandra. So thank you for coming on camera. So Sandra, let's start with you, and then we will pivot accordingly. Care and the ways in which society views and engages with care, as we said, is pivotal in the way we move forward. Care is a human right, which was on many signs during the past 16 days of united activism to end violence against women and girls. a care manifesto, Rebuilding the Social Organization of Care, was launched by PSI International. Can you tell us about that?
Okay, great, thanks. And again, pleasure to be with you all and lovely to be able to share our visions of what our world can look like for everyone. Our care manifesto is one that we have developed together with a number of our allies and partners, as we tend to refer to them throughout the world, in all regions. And it comprises 5 R's. We're focusing on recognizing not only the economic value, but also the social value of care. Sorry, you're hearing me well?
Yep, we can hear
Yes,
you.
we're hearing
Okay,
you
great.
fine. Thank you.
Great. So not only talking about recognizing the economic value, but particularly the social value of care. We also talk about rewarding, remunerating, and representing care work and the workers who deliver those services in a way that conforms with the ILO's, the International Labour Organization's decent work agenda. Thirdly, we want to reduce the burden of unpaid care work on women. We want to have that redistributed, which is our 4th R. We want to redistribute that care work within households, among all workers, and also start eliminating the sexual division of labor. And we also need to redistribute that care work among and between households. And one that I don't think that we pay enough attention to, the role of the state in ensuring this human right that we're talking about. And fifthly, and perhaps one that again is very little explored, or 5 R's speak to reclaiming the public nature of care services. In other words, care is a public good. And there must be a restoration of the duty and primary responsibility of the state to provide public care services and to develop the systems that transform gender relations and women's lives. And of course, that includes investing in the care sector through a sort of a revolution in terms of our tax systems and ensuring that those who can are contributing to the public purse and therefore contributing to the development of our societies. So in a nutshell, that's what our care manifesto speaks to. 5 important R's, which cause us to think very deeply about what do we mean by care. And in fact, maybe just to provoke some emotions amongst those who have joined the call, do we really care about care? Or is it that we just talk about it now because it's the buzz theme over the past few months, and because of COVID that we all want to be on track, but do we really care about care, and how are we really going to ensure that even if we have a society in which there is the ability and the access of women and girls to technology, that care is seen as a critical and central role being played in that kind of society and in that kind of future of work within our various countries. So in a nutshell, that's what our care manifesto talks about. To continue on that, if I may, one important area that I'd like to focus on is not only, of course, we recognize the unpaid nature of care work in households, and particularly in households where women do not work outside the home for a living wage, for a wage. But if we're talking about those workers in all sorts of care facilities, and let me quickly add that I'm talking about care throughout a person's lifespan. So we're not only talking about childcare, we're talking about care for dependents, we're talking about care for elderly, we're talking about care for those who have disabilities. We're talking about care for those who are still struggling with the after effects of COVID. And this is something that I don't think a lot of organizations have paid, or even health systems have paid attention to. How do we really provide the care for those who have long COVID and the effects of COVID generally, as well as those who are dealing with the non-communicable diseases? Who's going to deliver this care? And are we really caring about those who currently deliver that kind of care? And are we making plans that ensures that when we talk about this recovery from COVID, that we factor in that we need to invest more in providing care, and therefore that means employing more workers who can deliver care and employing them with decent salaries, decent protections, not only in terms of from violence, but also all the social protections and all the conditions that are needed and that have been agreed internationally through the ILO. We very often do not pay much attention to the workers who deliver this care in the sense of really trying to change what their conditions are. We all talk about the fact that they're underpaid, undervalued, but what in fact are we actually doing? And I mean all of society, to make the demands that their work is really valued and that they have the access to training, high quality conditions, and therefore as well, all the rights, in other words, the right to join a union, to participate in union activities and social dialogue, and for those unions to be able to represent their interests, all with the intention of ensuring that we have sustainable and just societies. I'm also casting my eye on the chat just in case there's some points that come up, because I'd like to include within my few minutes some of the points that may be raised. And while yes, I agree that COVID highlighted, it really did highlight the need and importance of care, I'm concerned as to whether anything is being done at the level of policy and action in societies. A lot is being talked about the recovery, but if in fact we're dealing with the recovery and we recognize that those who were hit hardest are those, as we call them, the fundamental frontline workers, and someone is mentioning migrant workers as well, a very important role that a lot of migrant workers play in providing all sorts of care. What are we really doing, not only as trade unions, but certainly civil society generally? What are employers doing? What are governments doing that really places the emphasis on correcting what was wrong and continues to be wrong in the way in which we think about and deal with care? And therefore, as the CSW comes up, and there's going to be an overriding emphasis, I think, on technology and digitalization and digitization and all the talk about STEM and so on, none of this is really going to advance if we don't take care of some of the root problems that are existing in our societies, especially with regard to gender equality and the way in which we deal with care. If I can move on into the linkages with the CSW demands, one of our important points with CSW and linking it with care is that we really do need to recognize that the digital goods, that digital information, the technology, the intelligence that is developed from all the data that Google and Facebook and all the big tech companies, all of that intelligence should be seen and must be seen as a public good. What we have now are increasing instances of breaches of systems. And a lot of the targeting in terms of using public services, and in fact, the ones who use public services most are women who rely on them, especially women who are now out of work or on short weeks or on in the platform economy, they're going to be dependent very much on public services. And when that happens, and all their data is being collected by a private company, and a big private company, and many of these big tech companies are not paying their fair share of taxes, what happens in terms of having this level playing field of this gender equality? That means that all the data that has been collected and the intelligence that has been amassed from the data of those users of their cell phones, all the information is actually being collected, and through AI is actually being used to guide the decisions that people make. The technology itself needs to be seen more as a public good, and that the public must have oversight in the use of that technology. For example, as well, if we link to what we've been talking about here in the CSW and certainly around the world about violence in the world of work in particular, but also generally in societies, it means that the linkage, the kind of intersectionality with ILO Convention 190, aiming to eliminate violence and harassment in the world of work, we cannot ignore digital violence. And the more and more that women are going to be using the technologies, either in their work, because they may be required to input data to actually assist other medical workers with their work and in terms of diagnosing or following up on cases, that exposure means that they're going to be even more exposed to violence, and it's going to be violence in the form of a digital workplace safety, the intent to have digital workplace safety. So to wrap up here in my initial comments, again, do we really care about care and the workers who provide it? Or do we seemingly talk only about care as an abstract and not really see that when we're talking about our infrastructure in terms of societies, that infrastructure has to include and must include the workers who deliver care, as well as ensuring that governments, the state, sees care as an obligation on them, and that they need to invest, and even in some cases ensure that the technology that they buy into, that they're bringing into the various workplaces, be there, especially in terms of public institutions, that technology respects the rights of workers, the rights of the society, and that it is seen as a public good. And that we need to ensure that the demands that we make at the CSW ensure that we link all of these, varying issues. And yes, it's a complex thing, but we need to be able to ensure that as we talk about it and as we deal with care, we're talking really about ensuring that we have quality public services and that we look after and ensure that the workers who deliver those services are well protected through their trade unions and through social dialogue with the tripartite system. Terry, thank you, and back over to you.
Thank you, Sandra, for those opening comments. And you certainly have given us a lot of food for thought. I particularly made note of the issue of investing, of the investment in care. What can that look like, and what should it look like as we go forward? Particularly also technology and as a public good, right? The technology as a public good, with the public having oversight of how technology is going to be used as it shapes policy that is public policy that we all will have to be living within. And also the issue of value, the value that we place with not only some type of care workers, but all care workers, and how we discern value in the first place. Again, it's a lot of food for thought, and I thank you for your very provocative opening comments. And hopefully there'll be more opportunity as we go forward to have engagements among the panelists and with the participants and the listeners as well. Let me ask and just check to see if Patricia is on. Patricia, are you here?
Yes, I arrived. I'm sorry for the delay.
No worries. Thank you so much. So let me switch to Patricia and welcome Patricia to this discussion. Patricia, you've already been introduced.
Okay,
But,
thank you, Sandra.
But I just want to ask you a quick question for your opening intervention and just refer to the fact that at the recent, the 15th Regional Conference on Women in Latin America and the Caribbean in Buenos Aires in early November, countries in the region committed themselves to moving toward a new development platform, the Care Society. Could you share with us the primary goal of the General Alliance for Care, objectives and outcomes achieved to date as we go forward to 2030?
Yes, of course. And thank you for the question and the opportunity to speak to my dear friends from the NGO CSW committee. We have worked for a very long time in many different agendas, and yet this is another one. Thank you, Uri, and thank you, colleagues, for inviting me. I am deeply honored and deeply grateful for the opportunity to speak to you today. So I'm going to share with you a small presentation that I made just to illustrate a little bit more and make the presentation more palatable. Let me just make sure that I'm doing the right. Oh, yeah. Can you please allow me to share the screen?
You should be good now, Patricia.
Okay, thank you. Don't see it where it is. Yeah. 1 second. Apologies. I'm going to be ready in 1 second. Where it is. Phone, iPad, whiteboard. I don't know why it is not showing in my oh, probably because of this. Are you seeing it now? No.
No, we're not seeing it, Patricia. Oh,
Now?
Here it comes. Here it comes.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up so it's easier for everyone. 1 second. Control home. Dios. Control home. Now make the presentation. So, okay, thank you for your question. And I'm going to precisely speak on in the opposite order that you have presented. I'm going to start speaking about why of the Alliance, why we have, what it has done, what it has grown up, and then connect to what happened in Argentina, which was amazing. You will see. So first of all, let me introduce you the idea of the Alliance. So we were in the COVID-19, but as you, feminist, economist, feminists of the world, civil society of the world, we also have seen how care is one of the biggest challenges that we have to advance the gender equality agenda, and especially unpaid care work. Women continue to be left behind because of home-related obligations and because mindsets and gender stereotypes have made them the main responsible for this. When the COVID came, the situation aggravated. Before the COVID, women were already doing 3 times as much unpaid care work than their partners, their male partners at home. But when the situation came, the COVID-19 came, we saw the care work, first of all, being recognized as essential. But yet, that essentiality meant that women had to bear a lot of the work that the COVID-19 circumstances demanded. In these statistics that I want to share with you that come from our Beyond COVID-19, a feminist plan for sustainability and social justice, we found that globally, women represented in 2020, 70% of the health workers in most regions, and 80% of nurses and social care workers across the countries where we had sex disaggregated data. The study shows that 71% confirmed women confirmed COVID-19 cases over healthcare workers. I mean, women were much more exposed to the virus than men due to their care work and their care obligations. And yet, even though that they were called essential, the care work was part of the essential workers, they earn 18% less in just in the United States. If you take a further look, this might be even harder, much lower. Across South Africa, we found out that 100,000 community health workers were doing their work in an unpaid manner and in fragile systems. So where the COVID where the COVID hit the most, it was not the state, it was not the private sector, it was grassroots women, it was community workers who came and took care of the families, but also of their communities, the first responders, and first the ones to come up with innovative solutions for something that was new to everyone. And this, I think that we have a huge debt of gratitude there. And despite being this severe evidence of the care crisis, yet only in 1 in 10 countries, the responses were including guidelines on the protection on healthcare workers, and even more so, in 2020, when this study was made, there were 1,700 social protection and labor market measures to contain the effect of the pandemic, and yet only 11% of those measures address unpaid care work. 13% of those measures address women's economic security, and 86%, meaning more than 1,500 of the 1,700 measures were gender blind. No wonder why, when in 2022, our gender snapshot says that the COVID represented 512 billion extra hours of work, and only 60% of the needs were of the countries took actions to support unpaid care work during the pandemic. That's the criticality of the situation that shows us why we had a big elephant in the room, and that was the scenario in which we thought that the problem was so big and was so wide. It's not a problem of the South, it's not a problem of the North, it's a global problem, and therefore we needed global action. And if we were to really move to a decent job agenda, we were to move to a conditions where women can actually be included into the economic markets and live their lives out of the houses. So then that was we saw the opportunity through the Generation Equality Forum and the Action Coalition on Economic Justice and Rights, out of which one of the actions, strategic actions, is the care economy. So the Global Alliance for Care was born in response to the opportunity, but mostly in response to the situation, promoting collective action to address what we called since then the care crisis. So the Alliance was launched in the Generation Equality Forum in Paris. It was announced in March in Mexico. And the interesting thing is, in 3 months, we were able to already grant a critical mass of about 20 members who wanted to be part of this conversation, who wanted to take part of this opportunity and contribute to place care as one of the determinants for fair and sustainable recovery. And this is very interesting, because what was before invisible, not valuable, all of the sudden became part of the solution. And I think that this is not because of the circumstances, but mostly because of the years of work of the feminists like yourselves that have been pushing for the care to be valued, to be compensated, and to be reflected in the national accounts as any other contribution to the economy. This is a very important win, and the Alliance has taken the opportunity of this enable environment, calling on a multi-stakeholder engagement model as Generation Equality, and right after the forum, the first thing that we did was to continue the outreach to members, and we had a series of co-creation, collaboration, and collective action workshops where the alliance itself decided how it wanted to operate. So what you have in front of you is this governance and operation model, which I can present to you very quickly. So the General Assembly is the space where all the membership, which is at the organization level. So the representatives will come and they will be the political body. They will give us the political savvy, the political opportunities for how to achieve the vision of the alliance. And what is that vision? That we also work together is to contribute to ensure that economic empowerment, women's economic empowerment, women's economic autonomy. But by doing that, we will also push the gender equality agenda, and even more so, we will be catalytic to the achievement of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So that's the role of the General Assembly, is to help us to identify the political messaging, the political orientation to where do we go so to achieve that vision. And then we have the management committee, which is the strategic body. The management committee has been just established. We had our first meeting last week, and what it does is to translate the mandate from the General Assembly to real action. So they help us to think strategically how to live up the mandate that the General Assembly is giving us, so to ensure that we have accelerated progress towards the aim that we have decided. And then we have a technical secretariat that is the coordination and operations body that enables coordination, articulation of different parties, the outreach, and all the work that is needed to make this operate as a one, as a body, as a global community that will work towards the same aim. So, and then they also decided, this is in terms of governance, and in terms of operations, that the Alliance also decided that what we can do is a lot of advocacy in different areas. So one is exchange of experiences and communities of practices. The other one is advocacy at the multilateral level and promote bilateral cooperation within countries that have advanced more in terms of their care agenda with others that want to learn. Also providing means, supporting institutional arrangements, and then another area is the knowledge promotion and data generation. The other one is outreach and promotion and sustainability of the alliance, which means continue to grow this alliance and continue to engage new members, but very importantly, continue to ensure that the right representations are there. So it's not just member states, it's civil society, it's private sector, and within civil society, I am pleased to inform you that we have the Wider Commission representing grassroots women, we have the International Confederation of Domestic Workers, and we have unions also represented there, making sure that the voices of the caregivers of the world are present and have a stake on the decisions that are taken. And then communications as the visibility strategy for the alliance. So this is how it has evolved, and in this year and a half, we have already a very strong representation from already 92 organizations. Anytime that I see the list is growing and growing, and amongst it has national governments, it has 11 international organizations, including UCLG. And the UCLG is very important because you know that a lot of the work that the caregivers do is at the local level, and we need to ensure that local level actually is engaged in providing the means and providing the space to support care workers, but also to ensure that the people who needs care are provided with the standards that they require, that they promote the human rights approach and the intersectional approach. And we have also private sector, and we have 30 civil society representing there. So this growing and growing representation in the alliance only indicates the urgency the urgency and how the world is shaking and saying, this is the opportunity that we have to give a fair chance to the realization of gender equality. And then what we have done is to define these areas of work and say, okay, there are two avenues by which we can contribute to make a change. And one is by promoting the generation of normative and institutional arrangements for care. And the other avenue is providing the means of implementation. And what we can do, because we don't have means, meaning funds. So what we can do is advocate together, use our voice to ensure that the governments, private sector, civil society take the toll and help us to, one, when it comes to normative and institutional arrangements, is to have care services and physical infrastructure, so people have alternatives, so women don't have to stay at home because there's no a second base, there's no a third base. So we need to provide avenues for women to be able to leave the house. Second, that is much more structural, is make those institutional arrangements policies and legislation, so we are not perpetuating or depending on a government approach, but basically making it a state policy, a state decision, and therefore securing some sustainability. And then also we are working on a deeper level, and this is what we need to focus from now on even more, is on changing the narrative, changing the mindsets and the social norms that continue to keep women as the main responsible for the house, and also that the care is a matter of the household. No, it's not a matter of the household. So the first thing that we have done very strongly on this particular area of work is to promote the co-responsibility within a state, private sector, civil society, and the family, and without so to ensure that whatever arrangements are not at the cost of women being left behind, or better women being left in the house, continue to do the care work. And then, but to enable these institutional arrangements to actually happen, we need to provide means. So what we are pushing is for having data and evidence on care. There are many different institutions, organizations working on that, but we need to make them to speak to each other, to see where, how much there is progress, to see where we are, to identify gaps, and to agree and see how is it that they can contribute to make this data much more accessible to decision making, to qualify decision making in all aspects of the care work. And then promoting means, financial means, including expanding the fiscal space for the progressive implementation of comprehensive care systems that allowed universal coverage. And then there is the fact that we need to continue to work, recognizing that that there are stakeholders, including civil society, that are behind and strengthening their voices for them to speak in all levels and say and promote their rights as recipients, but also as caregivers. And that is the role that we are putting the alliance there, because that's what we want to, that's the role that we want to enable, but also the role that we want to play, this convener role and the voice of the different persons that are affected by the current arrangements, and promote the arrangements that will let them to live a life of human rights and opportunities. So in this year and a half, there are different areas of wins, the policy wins that I can quickly brief you about. So one is that we have been very successful in joining other voices to say that the alliance is a critical labor for transformative change. And why? Because much more the care work is recognized as a right, is recognized as a public good, but it's also recognized as a work, and a work that is essential for sustaining the life and the economic growth. And that's very important. Our approach is the approach of the ILO, of the 5 Rs: recognize, reduce, and redistribute, but also recompensate and representation, very much linked to the presentation that Sandra was giving us. And then we have also the recognition of the multilateral systems co-responsibility. So it's not just at the national level. And in this, I can proudly say that we have very successful in promoting a multilateral share on this responsibility, that there are we are well placed to push the agenda forward when it comes to promote standards, to promote the means for then the governments and to empower the governments and all the stakeholders to push for progressive care agendas in their countries. We influence the agenda of the G7 this year, working closely with this presidency on the Germany. We are working with the Japan, promoting that Japan next year also takes care into the presidency. We are working, we have taken the alliance to the CSW, the Human Rights Councils. We had a fantastic opportunity in the UNGA where we share the progress made, but also push and made a strong call to action to continue to promote this engagement in the care economy and the need to promote the care economy, the strengthening care economy strategies regionally. And in that, we also work very closely with the Latin America in the preparations towards the regional conference that happened just in November in Buenos Aires, and we also work with the Asia Foundation in the care economy dialogue that happened actually just as the care conference in Latin America finished. And I'm going to speak to you about it in a little second, but I want to also say that we have seen a lot of interest from different countries in putting in place comprehensive care systems. So we are transitioning from programs on care, policies on cares, to comprehensive care systems. That means institutional arrangements in which there is action from different stakeholders that in a coordinated manner are promoting and are pushing for an agenda, for a responsibility from different sectors. So you have the funding, the finance minister, you have the women's minister or the women's machinery, but you have also other ministers, planning minister, living up together. Building up together what the care economy means, what a comprehensive care system means, including when it comes to facilitating the infrastructure to ensure that people can rely on external offer of care services. And then we are also working with civil society, ensuring that they are part of the multilateral voices. And I'm pleased to tell you that with the Wider Commission, we are working together on preparing a global summit of grassroots women working on care. And this grassroots summit is to happen in the first semester of 2023. And we will be working closely with you, with the NGO community, so you can also be part of that convening. And then all of this work has contributed to enlarge the visibility of care and the care economy as the labor for transformative change. I think that we have changed the narrative. And this is what I wanted then to land with the first part of the question that they represented to me. How is it that we have made progress and we have influenced the multilateral level? Well, the regional convening in Latin America is a good example. Why? Because the 15th Regional Conference of Women in Latin America and the Caribbean had committed to work for promoting care as a new pattern for development. So what happened there is that member states, civil society, all partners came to speak and agree, how does it look in real life? What is it for us to do to ensure that actually care was at the center of a caring society? And their response was loud and wild and beautiful. You cannot imagine what we left there. Deep discussions on every single aspect that you can think of related to care within the family, and care also in the community, care in the health sector, care in the education sector. There was a lot of discussion, many discussions that qualified what were we speaking about when we referred about care society. Please read the Buenos Aires commitment. The documents that I am sharing here are clickable. So when you receive the PowerPoint, you please click and you'll find there. So and from the Buenos Aires commitment, I just want I highlighted a few of the 50 paragraphs that I want to present to you. What is the most relevant that I read? Well, first of all, an intergovernmental document that is agreed by member states that recognizes the right to care. This is unprecedented. For the first time, we got that. But not only that, you see, it recognizes the right to care within a gender, intersectional, intercultural, and human rights approach. It means a lot. It is really, really, this is, I would say, the main gain. Why? Because when you recognize the right to care, it's not up to states. They have an obligation and they have to provide, but at the same time, you entitle states to demand from the providers, including the private sector, standards. It has to regulate, it has to make sure that the care work aligns with the care, the decent job agenda. It has many implications, and that's the second one that I was telling you, is the gender co-responsibility is breaking the assumption that it is about women responsibility. We are speaking about a gender responsibility, meaning that both parents or both partners in the house, regardless of their gender identity, they both have an equal share of responsibilities in the household. But it means making a deep analysis and a deep shake of gender stereotypes and social norms and the cultural understandings that continue to hold the families responsible for caring, and more than that, that continue to hold women as the ones that provide care, regardless of whatever the situation is. And it implies also pushing for conditions at the workplace that allowed women to continue to be working, meaning parental leaves, meaning including services and support to people that need support to be able to go to the workplace, people with disabilities, that they can actually live their lives because there is care, because someone is caring for them and is providing what they need to enable their full fulfillment and enable their huge contributions. Without many support, many people with disabilities make huge contributions to life, huge contributions to societies, and that's what we want to ensure, that if we enable conditions, people will be better off, and women will be better off contributing and being recognized by their contributions. So that's the second one. The third one is about these interagency coordination mechanisms that in Latin America is being called the comprehensive care policies, that bring an intersectional and interinstitutional approach to work on care. It's not the responsibility of the gender equality machinery, but they enable or empower the gender equality machinery to work with other ministers, with aligned ministers and other partners, to build in a coordinated way, in a coordinated manner, the way that those comprehensive care systems can better serve the societies that and the groups of interest. And then the paragraph 52 speaks amply about supporting the participation of women's and feminist organizations and movement. And this is very interesting because they are very inclusive. And you see, not only here, there are many mentions, but besides mentioning people with disabilities, women, elder women, they are also mentioning indigenous people, Afro-descendant people, women living with HIV/AIDS, grassroots women, migrant women, LGBTIQ groups, caregivers and independent persons organizations, trade unions, and other organizations, including domestic care organizations that have a voice, a meaningful engagement that can really shape the policies and in their design, in their implementation, and in their monitoring. So giving the space for those organizations to hold accountable member states, governments for the commitments to advance the care agenda. And then in this, we also were very pleased that the Alliance was recognized as this space for all of the different organizations to come and push the agenda forward. This is a huge recognition. We are very pleased for this, and we are grateful for the government of Mexico that pushed for this recognition, but also other member states and civil society who have given us the support and the faith that through cooperation, through genuine multi-stakeholder engagement, we will make a difference. And this is what we have done, and we will continue to do, using the Alliance as this avenue to promote investment and innovative solutions to provide comprehensive care systems, strengthen our support base, generating ownership, that is very important. Also strengthening the voices of civil society, continue to work to live up the expectation of the 5 R's agenda, including by promoting the creation of care work under the standards of fair remuneration and social protection for all caregivers, including domestic givers, and the recognition of those who by any means, despite all, remain at home, that they are also protected by the social services. So we are not condemning, we keep not condemning women to live in poverty when they age. And then also we have positioning care as central to resilience. We are about to start getting off of the COVID. We are not yet there, but we are in a world full of turbulences. Instead of getting better, we are getting in much more difficult circumstances. So we know that care will continue to be pressed. We will continue to have a lot of people and women losing jobs. But if we work well, if we actually put care at the center, it can be part of the solution. Instead of being part of the problem, part of the turbulence, it can be part of the solution. And that's the strong call that we are making. So unleashing the transformative power of the care economy is our vision. And the care economy and the care work, which is not just care economy, is beyond the care economy. It is about recognizing the right to care. It is about drive accelerated progress in all the demands of the SGD 5.4 that calls to recognize and value unpaid care work and domestic work, forging the way to achieving gender equality and generating a catalytic effect on the Sustainable Development Agenda. If we don't actually promote care and made it part of the solution, the Sustainable Development Agenda will not succeed. We are very far, and the real opportunity that we have to advance in the promise that member states did to society in 2015 is through the care economy.
Okay, thank you.
So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Patricia, for this very comprehensive intervention. And yes, the 2 things that jumped out at me, I'm going to just say quickly, is changing the narrative on care from outside of the household. So, and also the comprehensive care policy. So we heard Sandra talk about the impact on policy, and we've seen that coming out of Generation Equality Forum, all of the actions taken to date. And it's a very, very, very exciting to see that in your schematic. So thank you for sharing. I know that we're a little pressed for time, so I'm going to quickly pivot to our next presenter or panelist. Minnie has already been introduced, but I'm going to give Minnie a quick question to have her.
Yeah, I'm sorry because I have another meeting, so I'll have to rush off. But
That's
thank
fine.
you so much for the opportunity. And of course, if any question, Uri knows where I live. So please, thank you so much.
Sure, of course. Thank you. Thank you, Patricia. So Minnie, one of the shifts that we saw during the height of COVID-19 was the use of innovation and technology to deliver services as a medical professional. And how would you assess, one, the use of technology and innovation, and two, the gaps highlighted in the delivery of care, and three, the alignment with CSW 67 primary themes in the context of the impact on women and girls and the response to any other social pandemic? Thank you, Minnie, for joining us today.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you, Terry, Huri, and everybody. It's nice to see everybody. Thank you for having me as a panelist. And just to add to what my other two esteemed colleagues said, I'm going to basically focus my presentation and keep to time, 20 minutes, right, Terry? Looking at it from a health angle, because there are major challenges, which some of you may not be aware, which we as healthcare providers, especially women healthcare providers, I'm just not talking about physicians, I'm talking about nurses, I'm talking about nurses' aides, I'm talking about respiratory therapists, I'm talking about physical therapists. I'm not leaving anybody, but the list goes on and on, have been facing challenges. So before I start answering your question, Terry, I would like, those of you who know me, because I write poetry and I come up with acronyms, I've come up with an acronym for CARE, which is C, which relates to healthcare. C is compassion, A is for aid, and R is to recognize rights, and E is to ensure equity. Because one of the issues I have been looking at is we do not have equity. So first, let me talk about the challenges faced by the physicians. In my answering your question, Terry, I'm flipping it over and addressing the last part first. I can tell you that so many healthcare professionals do not have access to PPE, did not have access to PPE. So many of my colleagues from other countries told me they were using the same mask for a week because it was short supply. So when the masks came, the male colleagues had them, but not the women, whether you were a physician, a nurse, or whoever. The other thing is, do you all realize the PPEs are made that one size fits all? They're masks for kids, they're masks for adults, but there are no PPE specifically designed for women. It's very rare. A friend of mine who actually worked with NASA and the past Obama-Biden administration, who's a physician, has and is in tech, has been looking into this issue, has been pushing for it. And I was at a meeting in Boston just a few weeks ago, and one of the ladies was wearing a very cute mask. I said, "Oh, your mask is so cute." She goes, "You know what? I hate to say this. I need to buy my masks in the kids' aisle because I have a small face. If I buy a regular adult mask, so I'm buying the masks I buy for my kids, I cannot fit into it." So that got me thinking. It's the same case whether it's gloves. Yes, we do have small size. We have medium size, large size, but just not to be too technical, this is an issue which has been there. It's come more to the front side, during the pandemic. These are some of the issues. The other thing is that, which I will talk about later, about women burnout. So Terry, to start answering the other parts of the question to kickstart my contribution to this very interesting panel is, unfortunately, women's needs, as we know, were often overlooked through traditional patient contact methods. So what has been looking at, governments have been working with the tech industry, have been working with NGOs. So some of the examples I'm going to share is, one is from India, is that recently for the past few months, I would say 18 to 24 months, there has been the introduction of new apps, because India is one of the countries, not only is it a billionaire club along with China in the number of people, but also the number of people using cell phones and apps. And one of the other issues we have is that a lot of these apps were looking at evaluation software, pregnancy and infant cohort monitoring, because one of the services which really got affected during COVID was giving care to pregnant women and girls. So this was an app, and using cloud computing, and the way these apps were designed was to use them with even when the low frequency technology and when the internet services were not good. So it was not designed for 5G, but people could use it in 4G and 3G wherever these are. So this was something which was really helpful. And then in the Philippines, this was so crucial because I would like to share that by the end of 2020, early 2021, more than 5 million Filipino women were estimated to have unmet family planning needs. So the digital technology, low cost, has played a role in tracking this challenge. And they started what is called a helpline initiative. Now, fast forward, I would like to say that last year I was on a panel with one young woman with special needs from Pakistan, and she brought up this whole idea of how women and girls with special needs did not have access to go and get menstrual hygiene products, which has become a challenge during COVID. So she created an app and had like a messaging system where anybody who downloaded the app, they would send a message, and then so it would come, and then they would have supplies to the menstrual hygiene products they needed because they could not go out, maybe due to curfew, but more than that, because their mobility was restricted, so they could not go out. And my own personal experience, I would like to share how we use low-cost technology, working with my NGO, American Medical Women's Association. We are 107 years old. I'm not 107. And working with Suchi Foundation, the private sector, and also with the Arizona Attorney General's office, and with one of the flying companies there, and with a lot of medical students, we were able to drop 80,000 masks in the Navajo Nation. And the reason we knew where to drop these masks was because using GPS, and also it was a team effort. So whenever we are talking about care, it's basically, it is a clean effort. It is a team effort. The other thing I also wanted to add was that we need to really come together, work across borders to make sure, and different, industries, to make sure that care permeates to health. And the reason I'm stressing so much on health is an SDG 3, because we need to make sure care is a part of universal health coverage. As we know, the upcoming General Assembly in 2023 is going to have a high-level session on universal health coverage. You cannot have universal health coverage if we do not respect and seamlessly imbibe the care model into service delivery, whether it is clinical care or public health. The other thing is, some of the young students I have worked with, have used 3D printers to make face shields. And we dropped these, we sent this out to people. And one of the other things, how technology is being used is, again, even here in the US, March of Dimes and some of the other NGOs working on promoting women's health, there are apps in different languages. It was so nice when earlier one of the people told us about the video, which is really good. It's going to be available in so many languages. This is so important because the app is in Spanish, where women will be reminded in Spanish about their checkups, what they have to do, when they have to go, including immunization. So when we are talking about care for health, to promote health and well-being so that we can reach the SDG 2030 agenda of leaving no one behind. Ladies, gentlemen, esteemed guests, I'm not being prejudiced in saying if we don't have health, our development halts. Yes, we need women's empowerment. We need to address the environment. We need to address poverty, everything. It's like the 17 goals are like a 3-dimensional puzzle. But if you don't have health, it gets a little harder to address how we achieve the 2030 of leaving no one behind. So technology is here, but we need to use the power of technology, our power to harness it. And one of the other things to address, the other two speakers were talking about the other aspects. I just want to bring in violence against women, since we, it's the 16 days of activism, which were just observed. Is technology can also be used to help women combat domestic violence. And especially there is an app, there are several apps actually, which you tell college students or young girls to download on their phone. So if you are attacked, and then you add 6 people whom you want to know as to what's happening, whom you can trust. So with the press of a button, if there's a young woman, a young girl being sexually harassed, especially date rape, or when walking across campus, you just press a button, and then the information as to where you are is transmitted, because it's like an SOS. And the early prototype of this app, my apologies, I'm just blanking on this young woman's name, was developed a few years ago, because this young woman was the victim of violence and she was raped on campus. And as we know, our current president, Joe Biden, who when he was vice president, was really instrumental in addressing all the issues surrounding violence against women. We have all the various acts. But this is what I want to say, that technology needs to be a integral part of care to promote health and well-being, and also women's empowerment, because this is the big issue. Because I would like you to just focus for 1 minute. Some of these issues have come to the front burner, as I would like to use the term. COVID has expressed the inequalities, and women are bearing the brunt very quickly. Mental health issues, a healthy heart. So one of the things what is being done is through, we have in AMBA what is called, we address burnout, especially for healthcare professionals, because this has become a major issue as everybody is running on an autopilot, more so the healthcare providers, because, they have to go there. They are the first line providers. They have to do their jobs. And mental health, burnout is a major issue. We need to talk about it. So this is the thing, all the stigmas, and then you have the privacy when you have an app where you can talk to a therapist, remotely if you cannot go in person, and your information is kept confidential, but you have the luxury that somebody is listening to you, somebody cares. We have all the behavioral services for students. So why do we tell them? Because you don't have to be ashamed to say, I am overwhelmed. So technology, especially low-cost technology, and look at what technology has done. And thank you, Devon and team, for connecting all of us from so many places. So as I wrap up, I would just like to say, happy holidays to everybody, and may there be peace. And we are a dedicated band of people. We are all women. We need to advocate for each other and support each other. We cannot be in competition with each other. Only when we support each other can we really see that this model of care permeates through all the sectors, which Patricia talked about, which Sandra talked about, and what I am just adding my input with regard to health. So thank you all for this opportunity. And Terry, back to you. I think I've kept the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Minnie. You did great with the timing. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking us through that journey. It was particularly interesting hearing about the manner in which marginalized and vulnerable communities were accessed using technology during the height of the COVID pandemic, the mass drops, et cetera. So thank you for sharing that. Let me, I know we are again a little pressed for time, but let me ask to open the floor now for any questions. If anyone has a question that they'd like to ask one of our panelists, or if the panelists want to ask a question of one of the other panelists, now is the time to do it. So I'm opening the floor for questions.
Terry, if I may, I just looked at a comment here about masks. So may I like to, if with your permission and Huri's permission, as you guys are chairing the meeting, I would just like to address this.
Sure, of course.
Thank you. So this comment was from Charlotte, I believe. Were PPE masks assigned to men over women? Is that verbally determined, or is that automatically cultural? So based on the experience I have had, it is kind of culturally, it's like, talking about the men have precedence. So this is why, even though they're colleagues, I don't even want to open the can of worms of equal pay here, but have the lack of equal pay for men and women. But I just wanted to talk about that it was automatically assumed if there were 100 masks, the priority would be for the male healthcare providers. So women were given, but you cannot have the luxury of having it, being able to change it. So that's an issue. And also there was another comment about rights, because, human rights. So that's why I said it's recognizing rights. I did not use the term human rights. It's recognizing rights of everybody who has a right to equal care. So it does translate into human rights, because one of the challenges is care is being, what shall I say, is being rationed. It's the health is for a privileged few. It cannot be. That's why the General Assembly is going to be focusing on health care for the universal, health coverage. And it's important that we bring up this model. And the last thing is equity. So many people don't understand. It's still surprising to me that they look at equity and equality as the same. But we need to make sure the principle of equity is very well woven when healthcare services and access to healthcare and any kind of PPE or body suits or anything is given, including using technology and AI for delivery. Drones are being used for delivering vaccines in many parts of Africa, but this is amazing. But one thing, we need to make sure women are not left out of the loop. It's not that we're saying that, but we need to speak up for ourselves, because often we don't have a seat at the table. Pull up your chair, make sure that we get the equal access. Thank you. Back to you, Terry.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Minnie. Any questions from the floor, from the audience? Now's the time. Comments to share. Going once. We have to admit that we've had 3 very comprehensive presentations this morning. There's a lot of food for thought. Elizabeth, are you raising your hand?
Yes, can you please repeat the acronym for
Hi, Elizabeth. Yeah, so that I said C is for compassion, what I made up. Aid, A is for aid, R is to recognize rights, and E is to ensure equity.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Padmini, and thanks for the question, Elizabeth. Charlotte, I recognize your hand.
Thank you. I had a quick question about how we're modeling, that we're saying, okay, going out to stakeholders, this is the model care. We go out to stakeholders and yeah, you're gonna get 1,000 civil servants that say, yeah, we're on board. We're gonna get 1,000 different organizations that say, yeah, that kind of meshes with our vision and mission statement. So they're signing on board because they're on board with the mission, of course, but there's the intent has to be clarified. So I'm all about strategic multi-stakeholders, so we're not engaging stakeholders that aren't engaged. And so I asked the question around politicians. I mean, we're here to tell them as qualified professionals, this is where we're coming from. And I guess I'm curious about how are we that in that care model bringing those multi-stakeholders together?
Patricia, if you're still on, maybe you can, I know Patricia is not still on. Patricia has left. So let me ask Sandra to weigh in, and then followed by Minnie, if you want to address Charlotte's question.
It just kind of, yeah, sorry, confuses the process moving forward. So you have all a zillion multi-stakeholders. How are you moving forward with those stakeholders?
Charlotte, so just so we know that Patricia, who provided that schematic, is no longer with us. So, but we'll ask either both Minnie and Sandra to address the question from their perspective, not necessarily from the perspective of Patricia, who provided that schematic. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I think, again, we already have a well-known system. We have our multilateralism, and yes, definitely there are many areas for improvement, but we also have social dialogue, which is very much promoted through the International Labour Organization and with the partners of the employers, governments, and trade unions, which are worker representatives. So certainly through that system, and therefore this is the call for and the demand that that system be respected and be implemented worldwide. So when you have countries or systems that do not respect the tripartite system, that's where everything falls down, because we then have situations where one group over the other wants to take over the discussion. And this to me says that, yeah, we all agree, as you said, we all agree, we are all on board, but really and truly, what the heck is happening? Because we have a lot of agreements, we have lots of declarations, but where's the action? And again, I think that this hits home at what Patricia said, and Minnie to a certain extent as well. We have to work together. We're not going to agree on everything, but let's focus on the things on which we agree. Let's do the business based on our own specialities and our own areas of focus, but it is working together through social dialogue, the recognition of trade unions, the recognition of government representatives, the recognition of employer representatives, and through the various agencies within the UN system, let's get things done. And if it means that we have to reform those systems within the UN, let's reform them. Don't let's go building another system and depending on philanthropy and the kindness of strangers and that sort of thing. Let's get the business done. If we have to reform the multilateral system, let's do that. But we all have to be together in working on that. And therefore, that's where the action comes in. And finally, let's work with our public. And I mean the public in its widest sense. Let's help them understand why we say the things we're saying. Let's be very inclusive, not only in terms of recognizing who makes the decisions, but recognizing who has voice and who is able to use that voice. And if we can actually be helping them, not in finding a voice, but in raising the voices. So I think we do have the systems in place, but we need, yes, a strengthening of the systems, and certainly our tripartite system as we've known it over the years has worked very well for us. And we have to be careful that and particularly the private sector is guilty of this, trying to push down the ladder because they have used public services to amass massive profits and now do not want to pay their fair share in ensuring that countries have the fiscal space to provide for those who need the kind of provision and to ensure and maintain a standard of living for everyone. This thing about leaving no one behind must move from being a slogan to being a call to action. Hope that helps.
No, that was excellent. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
often say there's the hierarchy of care, and we say, oh, well, physical safety, you can't grow unless you're safe, right? So start there with certain.
Thank you,
very much.
Sandra. Thank you, Sandra. And Minnie, did you want to contribute to?
Very briefly, thank you, Sandra. And thank you, I think, for your question, Charlotte. So, well, again, I'm putting on my health hat. One of the things is making sure the multilateralism encompasses more players and nobody has a hierarchy. As you mentioned, we need to have dialogue there, which is easier said than done. And there needs to be accountability, because, for example, we had the COVAX, right, where the rich countries would donate money or vaccines so that there would be equity. In principle, it was a good idea, but it fell so miserably short in practice. So one of the things is we need to make sure, that's why I mentioned the term equity is underlying there as accountability, which I just stated. And again, I coined another word called, vacuity, which there needs to be equity in vaccine distribution and access. Some of us are getting our third booster. We have gotten it. And some people don't even have one. So this is something which needs to be addressed. And as somebody said, we even need to make our own, what shall I say, care, our own governments locally, physically. I mean, physically is by like kind of talking to them or petitioning them to say that this thing needs to be fair. And we have to ask ourselves the question. So definitely it's just not, just talk here. And that's why we have coalitions like the NGO CSW, because we are bringing up these important issues. And the more and more noise we make, they'll listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Minnie. And I know that we're out of time, so I'm going to just reference two comments that's in the chat. One is from Diane Murray. Diane says, how do you make this presentation required viewing with those who are presently in power, the power brokers? We insist. And Erica stated, there is one undeniable truth. Everyone will either be a recipient of care or a provider of care at some stage of their life. Majority of caregivers are family members who don't see themselves as caregivers, hence they don't advocate for themselves or their rights. AARP, my organization, has been advocating in the US for family caregivers and have successfully ensured that family caregivers get tax credits at the national level. Thank you both for your contributions. And if there are no further questions or comments from the floor, I want to turn it back to Uri, and thank you all for your participation.
That was an amazing presentation, and it was so good to see Minnie again. And it was, and thank you all for your patience with Patricia. She texted and apologized for jumping in late and running out, but it was one of those days that she had another meeting. But Terry, you deserve a huge applause. You pulled off an amazing program with amazing speakers and just the food for thought, right? I mean, it's so inspiring to hear all of this and get us into action. And I want to thank all the participants. I just love our chats, and I love the participation and all the ideas and thoughts that you bring into this circle. It's so appreciated. Somebody asked me just recently, and even in this meeting, if I prefer webinar to this Zoom, and I'm always picking Zoom open meetings over webinars because it's just so much more inclusive. And sometimes we worry because there was like a screen share there for a second. We're always worried if there's going to be any kind of disruption, but we're so lucky to have you all participating in a way that it is not disrupted. And Ivy, Ani, I see Skylar there. So I want to thank you all, and I want to say, please do join us on our platform. I wanted to also highlight that we will be having exhibit booths for the CARE Alliance and the Action Coalitions, as well as the Compact. We're partnering with UN Women and the Generation Equality Forum team again to bring that process into the CSW in some ways. Obviously, it's parallel to CSW, but we do want to know all the different spaces that we're pushing for gender equality. So be on the lookout for that. And I think I'm just going to wish you all an incredible holiday season. I personally am looking forward to just downtime after the parallel events are done. And then we're just going to rest, put our feet up, and take care of ourselves, right? That's like, you see the connection I just made? All right. Thank you all for your participation today. I'm going to give you back 20 minutes of your life again without the screen. And as you all know, I like to hear everybody's voices. This is the time to turn on your mics and say goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays.
Take care. Thanks.
Everybody, have a great day. Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank